It's Ramsey Dewey over here in Moganshan, China, and I don't have a tripod today. Bear with the shaky cam. Let's get serious for a moment. Welcome back for another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today we have a question from our friend Shibanga Das over in India, who wants to know about muscle memory technique, specifically the technique that Mr. Miyagi used in the movie The Karate Kid, you know, the wax on, wax off, where he had Daniel Larusso wax the car, sand the floor, paint the fence. These movements that were very similar to the karate techniques that Daniel was going to learn, so that when Daniel actually did karate, it stuck in his muscle memory and he was able to perform those techniques better. So Shibanga wants to know, does this actually work? And can it be mastered with other moves as well? All right, my friend. Sort of. Yes and no. Let's discuss the pros and the cons of what Mr. Miyagi did. Now, I've made a couple of videos pointing out some holes in Mr. Miyagi's, not the methodology that he used, but the actual techniques that he used and how he applied them. But the actual methodology of do a movement very similar to the combative movement many times to improve your kinesthetic bodily awareness, to upgrade your muscle memory in that type of movement. Sure, that is a true principle. So, for example, if you want to learn hand fighting patterns, you might want to rep it out on some sort of hand fighting pattern tool, such as a speed bag, or if you're a Wing Chun nerd, a Wing Chun dummy, or human hands. That's a great idea to learn hand fighting. All of these things are tools to rep out hundreds or even thousands of repetitions of certain techniques over and over again, day after day, to make it easier. Hand fighting, it's something that happens all the time in almost every fight, but it doesn't happen a lot. It doesn't happen excessively. It happens in between the striking, in between the clinching. It's that bridge between striking and clinching, grappling and striking, going back and forth. So because it happens so infrequently, but because it's so important, it's incredibly important to be good at it. Because if you're not, you're always going to be at a disadvantage to somebody who is. So when you train with a speed bag to learn hand fighting patterns, it's very important that you recognize what the hand fighting patterns are before you start hitting the speed bag. And this is one of the big problems with Mr. Miyagi's methodology, because Daniel Larusso had no idea what paint the fence and sand the floor and wax the car was for. If he had had that instruction beforehand, wax on, wax off is representative of a hand fighting pattern, a block, etc. Paint the fence is representative of this combative movement. Then, while Daniel was painting the fence and waxing the cars and sanding the floor, then he would be able to visualize the combative movement. And this is one of the most important things. It's the missing ingredient in the Karate Kid formula. When you shadow box, for example, you can get a great amount of benefit from it, or you can just work up a sweat and that's it, depending on how you are visualizing the activity. If you are drawing on experience from sparring, from fighting, from film study, etc., and you are visualizing a real opponent doing real combative movements against you, and you are visualizing the spacing, the footwork, the proximity, the reactions, your reactions to your opponent, etc., then you're going to get a lot out of your shadow boxing. If you are just randomly throwing punches and kicks at the air, even if they look crisp and clean, that will be the extent of the benefit you get from it. So if you go onto a speed bag and just try to look pretty, that's all you will get out of it. If you go to a speed bag understanding exactly what the hand fighting patterns are that you are doing, and understanding exactly how those work in actual hand-to-hand combat, you will learn how to use those movements in actual hand-to-hand combat. But again, this is a big problem with Mr. Miyagi's methodology, is that Daniel Larusso was acting in ignorance as he was training those movements. And if you remember in the movie, while he's painting the fence, like he's like halfway done painting this fence, he's spent hours and hours doing this, and then Mr. Miyagi comes up and he's like, oh, not like this, like this. And he corrects the technique, and Daniel is like, okay, but I don't even know why I should be painting the fence this way and not the other way. So he spent half of his time, one, ingraining the wrong movement in his muscle memory, and two, he spent half of his time trying to correct something, but he doesn't even know why he's correcting it. Have any of you ever taken a traditional martial arts class where you're doing the forms, you're doing some kata or some pumse or some taolu or whatever you call your forms in your martial art, and then your instructor comes up and he's like, wait, stop right there, and he moves your hands or your feet around a little bit, and he's like, there, that's the way, that's the right way. And you have no idea why, and he gives you no explanation as of why your hand right here as opposed to your hand right here makes any difference at all, and you don't benefit from it at all. And you just keep trying to copy that movement, but you have no clue why. This happens a lot. It happens a lot. And it's a terrible, terrible teaching method. Error correction is the lowest form of coaching. And this is one of those reasons why. What is the highest form of coaching? Oh man, that's a good question. That's the question that every good coach tries to answer on a daily basis. But a higher form of coaching than error correction is pointing the way, the right way, and making sure that your athletes understand why it's the right way, and not just slapping them on the wrist saying, no, wrong, put your wrist here, not here. It can be as simple as put your wrist here because then you'll hit the guy and he won't hit you. Or put your foot here because then you'll be balanced instead of imbalanced. Move this way because then it works instead of that way because it doesn't. And here's why. Simple practical applications go a very long way. It doesn't have to be complicated as much as we try to complicate it. So, Mr. Miyagi had some great life advice in The Karate Kid, but I don't think he was a particularly good karate teacher as far as teaching people how to effectively defend themselves through hand-to-hand combat. You can hate me for that if you want, but you know it's true. Search your feelings, my friends. You know it's true. Thank you for watching. Now get out there and train.